So some of you might just have to say okay to the recording there. So first of all, if I didn't already introduce myself, I'm Melissa. I have been the YogaCare Wellness Circle coordinator for most of the year. We began doing these wellness circles as part of a grant we received to build connection and share wellness and yoga resources throughout the pandemic. So every month we've been having a different circle topic with a YogaCare teacher that ends up being a deeper dive into something that you might only get like a little piece of in an ordinary yoga class when you're doing asana and such. And so I think I didn't fully introduce YogaCare right there, but I think if you're here today, you know enough about YogaCare. So I'll go ahead and just introduce Molly. Give me just a second here. So a lot of you probably know Molly possibly from her previous work with YogaCare, but Molly Coeling is a trauma-informed body worker, Reiki practitioner and teacher, and forest yoga instructor. She uses the neuroaffective relational model, also known as NARM, to work with complex trauma in individual and group sessions. And Molly is also the host of the podcast Beyond Me Too, Healing the Wounds of Sexual Trauma. And if anybody's interested in that podcast, you can always go back to the YogaCare event. It should still be up today. And it's linked there, and maybe Molly can share that link at the end of practice, or excuse me, at the end of our wellness circle today. There's probably a lot more that I could say, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Molly to begin us with a presencing exercise.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I'm glad to be here today as well. If it looks like I'm sometimes looking away from the camera, it's because I have a computer going on where I can see you all a little bit better, and then I have my phone that I'm looking into right now. So before we get into introductions of each of us, I'd like to just bring us into the space together with this brief presencing exercise. So just take a comfortable seat in a chair, on the floor, whatever works for you. If you want a little bolster or something underneath you like I have, that's an option. And just start by noticing your breath. You might close your eyes to drop in to your body with fewer outside distractions. And just checking in with your body to notice how you're feeling right now. How you're feeling physically, emotionally, energetically. Maybe noticing where your body meets the surface that's supporting you. And now from here, I invite you to zoom out a little bit to the space around you, the room or space that you're currently in, maybe any sounds, including the sound of my voice, but maybe sounds in your own space. And also just virtually connecting with the other people that are here in this wellness circle. And just feeling what it feels like to be in all of those spaces, to notice all of those spaces and how that feels for you right now. Okay, and then from here, notice as you focused on the spaces around you and this circle of people, did you keep some of that connection to your inner experience or not? And that's fine, just noticing. And if you can, moving into this space of what we might call 50-50. So dropping both into your own experience inside of your being, and also at the same time being aware of the space around you. It might feel like you're having to kind of go back and forth quickly between the two, or maybe it's really easy for you to be with yourself and with the space around you. Just noticing that, seeing what's possible for you in that 50-50. So sitting in whatever space you've cultivated, I invite you to reflect on why you're here today, what brought you here, and or what you're looking to experience or gain from this experience today together. And those might be the same thing. Maybe the same thing that brought you is what you're looking for, or maybe they're a little different. And just once you kind of have a sense of, okay, yeah, this is my focus, this is my reason for being here, just taking a couple of deep breaths into that intention, just putting that general intention out for the next hour, 15 minutes or so. Okay. And so from here, we're going to move into just some brief introductions. We're a small group, and Melissa, I suppose we can pause the recording now. All right, so thank you all that are here live for those that shared, and let's get into the topic of the day. So the topic of this wellness circle is transforming trauma and adversity with yoga. And Melissa gave a brief intro of sort of who I am and what I'm up to. And the reason that I chose this topic is because in many ways, I think trauma underlies what really gets in the way of us living in our full and authentic selves. It adds lots of layers of different challenging emotions and patterns that really live in the body. The more and more that we understand about trauma, the more we understand that it is a physiological process. So I work with folks, individually and in groups, as Melissa said. I use the body, I use energy work, I use movement, and I also use dialogue as ways to help work with trauma. And so my goal in today's session is to really bring those things together, to kind of just dip our toes into kind of what that work can look like and feel like in an experiential format. So, and when we talk about trauma, we're also talking about adversity. Sometimes people don't categorize something as quote unquote trauma, but maybe just having adversity. And we all have adversity. And I would argue perhaps that we've all experienced trauma, being human beings that are raised by imperfect human beings. But trauma in and of itself is not the event that happened, but it's really our response to an event or a pattern or a relationship that was threatening to us, was threatening to our survival in some way, threatening to our control over our bodily autonomy. And what trauma really does is it disconnects us. And as humans, we're constantly moving between connection and disconnection, and connection and disconnection. And that's part of the experience. But as we get into today's practice, we'll set some sort of intention of a state that we're trying to move toward. And oftentimes those states that we're trying to move forward toward, the common thread is connection. And the things that get in the way are these patterns, these psychobiological patterns that are responses to things that happen to us, traumatic experiences. Oftentimes that's the case. So we might have all the best intention in the world, and yet something that at one point in our lives kept us safe and kept us alive is now getting in the way of where we would like to be. and oftentimes demanding our attention, and feels like we don't really have a choice but to follow it, even if it doesn't feel like that's who we really are. So with that sort of background, I want to just dive into the practice today. And the practice is going to have kind of, well, 2 or 3 parts, depending how you look at it. So the first part is I'm going to guide us into kind of a little bit of a longer version of just checking in with ourselves. And then we'll go into more of a movement practice, a more typical yoga practice, which will be in the style of an adapted forest yoga practice. I'll put up what that is at the end on the slides if you want to look it up, but it's Forrest. It's named after a woman named Anna Forrest, which her style of yoga practice was developed not that long ago. She's an American woman, was developed in the West. She's still alive, still teaching, and it's very much about being in your body. And for me, it has been incredibly healing as a practice of getting me back into my body, which it was a safer place for me to live, to be disconnected from my body for a very long time, and sometimes still is. And so this practice has been really powerful for me, and I'm glad to share some of it with you today. The third part of the practice will really just be an opportunity to reflect and share. So we'll get into that at the end. I'll save some time. Okay, so with that, I'm going to invite you to take a comfortable seat. I'm going to change my position. So if you've been sitting still for a while and need to switch things up, feel free. We'll be here for maybe 5 or so minutes. So again, as we did earlier, I know some of you missed the very beginning presencing exercise, but just dropping in, using the breath and using your awareness of your physical body to really go inside and be present right now with whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever's going on with you physically. Maybe there's emotions that you're feeling, maybe you're not feeling any emotions. Maybe there's an energetic quality to your current state. And just, you don't even have to name it, but just noticing and feeling where you are. And in many ways, what I'm really studying and looking at right now is this model that, again, I'll share at the end, which is about getting curious. So getting curious about where we are. If we have things that are painful for us, things that are difficult, oftentimes our first response is to not be curious, but to move away. I'm actually going to invite us to move into whatever comes up today. And also be gentle with ourselves when we find ourselves getting distracted or moving into a different, into like a, slightly less present or connected state. And so building on the intention of why you're here, we talked about kind of our motivations for being here. I'm going to invite you a little bit further into what would you like to cultivate for yourself in the next, 40 minutes or so of practice. We'll save some time at the end. What would you like to cultivate for yourself? Just, there might be various things, but if you can pick one, we'll practice this today. This recording will be up. You can always do it again. And if the thing that you would like to cultivate is a state of being, and by state of being, I mean like being more present, feeling more joyful, sort of an inner state, that's what we're going for. If the thing that you would like to cultivate for yourself wasn't quite a state of being, I would invite you to ask yourself, well, if I had X, say you thought, I want to work on the pain in my right shoulder, for example. That's not so much a state of being, but ask yourself the question, if I didn't have this pain or this limitation in my right shoulder, what would be different for me? How would I feel different? Kind of keep asking yourself to go a little deeper until you get to like, what is that state of being that you're actually yearning to experience? we're going to weave that in and keep that present throughout. And we'll start by connecting to a time when you felt that way, when you felt that you were in that state. And if you haven't felt that state, you can only imagine that state and start to feel what that felt like or would feel like in your body. What would the energy running through your body feel like? How might it feel different? And just see if you can start to even feel a little bit of that, even if it's alongside a very different state. Just dipping your toe in and feeling whatever part of it is possible for you. And breathing into just the possibility that that could exist for you, that you could exist in that space, even for a moment, for a minute, for an hour. And then the next question I invite you to reflect upon and feel into is what gets in or is getting in the way, gets in the way or is getting in the way of that state of being, of you experiencing that state of being. So that could be a physical pain, or it could be, I don't know, a distraction. What gets in the way for you? Could be that you don't believe, there's a belief that, well, I don't know, that's really possible. And let's move toward. I invite you to move toward that obstacle, that thing that's in the way. And with the recognition that perhaps it is there for a reason. Maybe the reason is no longer valid, but noticing how you feel about that thing that's in your way of being in the state of being that you desire. How do you feel toward it? What is your inclination? Is it to push it away? Is it to feel a certain emotion toward it? Is your inclination to go into it? Is it something else? And then the final question here for that thing that's in the way is it trying to tell you something? Or is your emotion toward it trying to tell you something? What's there? Is there anything there? And if you're going through this activity like, I don't know what she's talking about, or I'm having trouble following, notice how you relate to not knowing what I'm talking about, or not being able to follow, or not being able to stay focused. What is your relationship to that? Again, just getting curious about whatever is there. All right. Lost connection for a second, but I'm back. Okay, good. All right. I'm sorry about that, guys. Okay. Our virtual world. All right, here we are. Oh, good, you're back on my other machine too. Okay. All right, so we're gonna move into pranayama. So starting with, we're gonna do this exercise called the 3 diamonds, which comes from a Japanese tradition, which informs my Reiki practice. And we're gonna bring in some sound with that as well. So the 3 diamonds are earth, heaven, and heart. And those live at different points in our energy field and in our bodies. We'll start with earth. So feeling for, if you're in a chair, your feet on the ground, feeling your legs, whether you're in a chair or not, feeling your feet, feeling your legs. And also feeling where your sit bones and your pelvis, where that contacts the earth. Now running your attention down the length of your spine, all the way to the base of your spine, and just imagine that very tip of your tailbone. See if you can connect to that in your mind's eye. See if you can feel that area in your body. And start to send your breath and your awareness down into that earth area. That tip of the tailbone, the pelvic bowl. You can imagine the tip of the tailbone is the center of that earth area, and then there's sort of spokes of energy emanating in all directions out from there. And as you breathe, just bringing energy down into that area. And if it's helpful, you can use a Broadway breath, which is a buzzing sound that can help, again, connect sensation to areas of the body. So this area of the body would be a lower pitch because it's lower in the body. And it's just a buzzing sound. I'll just demo it briefly for you, but if it's helpful, or to put a hand in the area that we're talking about, just anything to wake up this area. So Brahmari is going to be something like you take a deep breath in and then buzz low, like and do that until you're empty of breath. And we're all muted, so feel free if that feels helpful to you. Just feeling if there's any vibration or anything that kind of wakes up in that area. So we've got that earth energy a little bit more online now. We're going to move up to heaven. That's the second component of these 3 diamonds. And so feeling for, imagining the center of the top of your skull, or maybe the whole top of your head, and then emanating out from there like a funnel up towards the sky. Just feel for, can you become aware of that area? Still staying connected to that earth energy. Noticing, does that area, that energy feel harder to access, easier? Does the energy feel heavier, lighter, more alive, less alive? Just noticing. We can put hands there to help wake that area up. You could also put hands there and do a Brahmari breath. This is going to be a much higher pitch sound. I'll do it very briefly because we're on Zoom. It might not be the most pleasant sound, but it would be something like a deep breath in. So very high so that you feel it in the top of your head. Okay, and from here, moving to heart. So feeling that area in the center of your chest, the center of your upper back, and everything in between that mid to upper rib cage and chest area. And breathing starting the breath down lower, but breathing really fully so that the breath moves up and reaches all the way, potentially feeling it all the way up into the collarbones. Feeling what that area feels like compared to the first two areas, compared to that earth lower area of the body and that heaven higher area of the body. What does this one feel like? I can notice, like, actually feel a little tension in this one. This one feels quite alive, but also feel a little taxed. Just noticing again what it feels like for you. You could put a hand on your heart. You could put a hand on the back of your heart. And you could do a Broadway breath here, again, with the intention of kind of waking this area up or connecting to this area. And that's going to be more of a mid-range sound. So something like a deep breath in. And continuing to the end of your exhale, just feeling that heart energy, working to wake that up. Bring that into your awareness. So now we've sort of checked in with each of these areas of the body, the 3 diamonds. This is sort of like our energetic map in the Japanese tradition. And the reason we're checking in with this is just to kind of recognize these different parts of ourselves, this connection to earth, this connection to heaven energy or spirit, and then also this connection to heart, which is, the heart is really the connection between the two. And that's the human experience at its fullest. That's as we connect and maybe even draw a line or string a thread between all 3 of those points, I invite you to refocus on that intention, that state of being, and see with this a little bit more awareness, just taking these few moments to breathe and connect and wake up these parts of ourselves. If your connection to that state of being feels, I don't know, more or less palpable, any different or not, just bringing you back to that intention. Okay. And from here, we're going to move into seated spinal twist. So I'm going to move my chair. You're on the ground. I invite you to come into just a comfortable cross-legged position, right on top of left. So that could be like half lotus or just cross-legged. It could be like those are probably the 2 most accessible. So I'm going to just do like some sort of hybrid of the 2. That's what feels good for my hips. If you're in a chair, just feet on the floor is fine. Okay, great. So with your hands on your knees, inhale, spine lungs are reaching down through that earth, up through that heaven. And then inhale, exhale, twist to the right. Just a mild twist. We're just getting, we've been still. So left hand to right knee. And then that right fingertips will be behind you. If you're on a chair, you can kind of imagine you're gonna use the chair to help you into that twist. Grab onto the back of the chair with the right hand and onto the right side of the chair with the left hand. And then relaxing your shoulders down and keep your chin here over the sternum. So the twist is coming from the upper back, mid to upper back, so the thoracic spine. And you're staying, more important than getting deep into the twist is feeling for that length. Again, from that earth area of the spine all the way up to the top of the head to that heaven area. And connecting to deep breath in, if you know Ujjayi breath, in and out the nose with that whisper sound. But more importantly than the sound or the specific technique is just using the breath to become aware of that cylinder of your core from the hips all the way up to the shoulders. And your next inhale, come back to center. If you're cross-legged, I invite you to switch the cross of your legs. So left will be on top. By the way, I'm not mirroring you, so it'll look backwards, but I'm just going to cue it the way I'm doing it because it gets confusing for me otherwise. All right, so here, again, reaching down through that earth area of the spine through the tailbone, reaching up through the crown of the head. Inhale, spine long. And then exhale, right hand comes to left knee, left hand comes behind. And then just gliding the shoulder blades down the back, down the rib cage. So you've got space between your ears and your shoulders. Chin is neutral over the sternum, so you're not twisting from the neck. So noticing any difference from this on this side, from the first side. Opening up through that chest a little bit if you can. That might mean kind of bringing your shoulder blades slightly closer to one another. If that feels good to you. And what here could you do to potentially move into or closer to that state of being that you're trying to cultivate? Could you breathe differently? Could you maybe move out of the twist a little bit? Is there an emotion that's coming up that's getting in the way, or a judgment? If there is, go into that emotion, go into that judgment, and see, maybe ask it why it's here. Ask it if it's trying to tell you something. Notice how you respond to it. And then inhale, back to center. We're going to move into a seated side bend. So if you're on the mat, you could, we'll have you straighten your right leg and then bring your left foot into your right kind of groin or somewhere above the knee, the inner right leg. Hopefully you can see that. If you're on a chair, just stay seated normal. We're going to move into a side bend. So you'll grab one side of the chair. So bring your, if you're on the mat, bring your right hand inside your right shin. Open up your left shoulder so that it's sort of like your chest is opening up to the left side of your mat. Then inhale your left arm up. Exhale your left arm over. So you're coming into a side bend, lengthening the left side of your body, feeling that length from left hip all the way up to left armpit and perhaps beyond to the left fingertips. You could use that right hand to kind of, as if you wanted to drag your body a little bit more over the right leg, and then allowing your chest to really open up to the left side of your mat. That looks great. And here, breathing. Letting your head and neck relax to the right. So actually one thing we do in forest yoga is we relax the neck a lot. Rather than using a drishti or like a focal point, we actually let the neck go. So I invite you to do that. There's a lot of neck tension in the Western world, and it can cut us off from our body. So if we can let that go a little bit, that might help us be a little more, more connected. Feeling the breath moving through the left side of the rib cage up into the left armpit. And then exhale, bring your left arm up and over and down, and then you can come back up to center. We'll move to the other side. Okay, so if you're on the floor, you're adjusting your legs. If you're in the chair, you're not. You're just gonna side bend to the other side. But here we're bringing the right foot into the left groin. The left leg is straight. Left hand inside left shin. Opening up the chest to the right side of the mat. Inhale your right arm up and exhale your right arm over. All right, looks like you all got it. All right. So again, reconnecting, if not already, to that state of being, or trying to connect to that state of being. If you notice yourself getting distracted, the question I would actually have for you is not necessarily what the distraction is, but how do you feel about that that tendency to get distracted from where you want to be, and how are you relating to that? Because again, perhaps at one point in time, moving away from a certain state was actually necessary for your survival. So I'm wondering if that might change the way that we relate to, for example, a tendency to be distracted when we're really trying to be present. All right, breathing into the right side of the rib cage. And that looks, I like the nice relaxed necks I'm seeing. That looks nice. And when you're ready, you can inhale that left arm up and over and come back to center. I'm just taking a look at the time and seeing what we've got time for here today. So we're gonna move into, this is like a hallmark of forest yoga, abdominals. So first, before we even get into abdominals, and I'll say goodbye to Greg and Scott, thanks for being here. Enjoy your retreat. Before we even move into abdominals, I would invite you to, as I said that word, I wonder what your initial abdominals, what are we doing? And that's it, just what's your initial reaction to that? And I will walk you through them. And the intention here is to actually connect to our center, this really powerful area in our lower abdominals, to, on a physical level, build heat, but there's also a lot of energy and often a lot of information in this area. And we'll work through this in a couple of different ways. I'm going to offer some modifications. So let's see, I'm going to offer a floor version first, slightly modified from the regular, and then I can offer a chair version. So if you feel like you need to do these in a chair and being on your back on the floor is not accessible for you, just hold on and we'll get to you. So let's make sure you can see me here. All right, so I'm gonna go on my back and just looking to see what people are, okay. So I'm on my back with my feet flat on the floor. And feel free to follow along. You can bring your hands, clasp them at the base, clasp them together at the base of your skull, and then bring your elbows in close to the temples. So this is sort of the starting position here. Knees are bent at like, I don't know, 90 degrees, 45 to 90 degrees. All right. So working with the breath. So I will cue the inhales and the exhales. You're going to inhale, head and shoulders lift up slightly, using the core to do so. And then you'll hold your breath and press the low back down into the mat so it's flat. And then exhaling towards the left leg as you reach out through the right leg. So you're just twisting slightly towards the left leg. Now come back to center as you inhale, bring the right leg down. Your torso is neutral. Hold the breath, press that low back down again. Exhale, twist slightly towards the right leg as you reach out towards the left leg. If this is not accessible for you, we'll offer another option in just a second. I'm just going to walk you through two more. So inhaling back to center, bring that left foot down. Head and shoulders are still up. Hold the breath, press the low back down, might even curl the tailbone. Exhale, right leg reaches strongly, reach out as you twist slightly towards the left knee. And then at the bottom of the exhale, you could pull that low belly down towards the mat if you can feel for that. Inhale back to center. Head and shoulders stay up. Hold the breath, press the low back down. Exhale, reach out through the left foot and twist slightly towards the right knee. And then pull low belly down. Keep going. If you get a little lost, that's okay. What I'm inviting you to do here, and I see you've already got a modification going, Sharon and Melissa. Thank you. Yes. What I've been really inviting you to do here is to use your breath to move through these. It's not about powering through. And if you need to like keep your head and your shoulders down, that's okay. If you're in a chair, as promised, I will walk you through one way to do them. There are different ways to do them, but you would have your head and you would have your arms behind your hands clasped behind your neck. And if you are on the floor, keep going. If you need to pause and take a break, I'd rather have you breathing than pushing through. Okay, so if you're in the chair, inhale, Hold the breath, press down through your sit bones, and then bring your right leg up and twist slightly towards the right leg. You could even pull the low belly back at the bottom of that exhale, and then inhale back to center, come straight up. And then exhale, you're twisting towards the left leg as you bring the left knee in. Yeah, and there you go. Inhaling back to center. Exhale, twisting slightly towards the right leg. Pulling low belly in, and so on. So I'm gonna just let you go at your own pace for a couple more. Again, if you need to take a break, take a break. And what I'll invite you, not surprisingly, to do right now is just to feel into, as you access these abdominals, that might be a little bit different. Maybe there's some confusion, maybe it's hard, maybe you don't like abdominals, or maybe it's great, but can you access that state of being that you had set the intention at the beginning? Or what part of that state of being can you access? Can you alter the way that you're moving through these so that you can stay connected to that state of being? And if not, like what is it that's taking you off course? What's getting in your way of being in that state? And then the ultimate question, and this is really the ultimate question, is how are you relating to that thing that takes you out of where you would like to be? How do you feel about that distraction or that negative talk? That is a really important question, because again, these things that come up and get in our way, while they might be getting in our way, they also might have served us in some way, and they're probably there for a reason, or at least they were at one time. Yeah. So finish up if you want to even out sides. If you're needing to end on the left because you started on the right, please go ahead and finish up. That was quite a few as we usually don't do a lot of them in our practices, but wanted to give you some different versions. And so from here, let's see. All right, we've got a little time. I'm gonna invite you to move into some sun salutations with me. And again, I'm gonna start with a version without using the chair, and then I'll show you a version using the chair. And we'll do several of these together. So if you're up for doing them without the support of the chair, or at least trying it, we'll start at the top of our mats. Just stand, feet don't need to be right next to each other. They don't need to be touching, but just supporting you, reaching down through heels and through the balls of the feet. You can bring your hands together in prayer position at the center of your heart. And these might be slightly different than suns that you've done before, but just follow along. All right, we'll move with breath as fast as possible. So inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward folding. Inhale, step the left foot back, and you're gonna bring the knee down into low lunge. So I'll move this way so you can see what I'm doing, yeah? So you're something like this. If you need padding under your knee, grab a blanket and you can leave it there for the sun salutations. We'll get back to an inhale as we reach our arms up. And then exhale, stepping back into a plank or a modified plank with the knees down. And then exhaling all the way down to the floor. I'm a tall person, I've got some things in my way. All right, from here, we're gonna inhale into a low cobra. So hands are just in front of the shoulders on the floor flat, and you're pulling your chest forward as you inhale. Just a little mini back bend, nothing too extreme. And then exhale, drop, let yourself come back down and press back into a downward dog. So hands and feet on the floor, looking back between the knees. And now inhale your right foot forward for a low lunge on the second side. And you could reach the arms up or you could leave them down on the floor. That's also an option. And Melissa's demoing with a chair, so you can see her as well. Okay. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. And then exhale, bring the hands down, step the left foot forward to meet the right and come into a forward fold. Then on your next inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center. That is one round of sun salutations. I'm going to show you another one from over here. We're going to step back with the left foot first this time. So inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, left, leg steps back again. I should have offered this first, but hands down, hands can come to the right thigh or hands can reach up. So those are all options. And then hands down, stepping back and exhaling from plank or modified plank with the knees down, all the way down to the floor. And then inhaling, hands just in front of the shoulders into this baby cobra. So reach back through big toes to take some of it out of the low back. And then exhale, hands under chest, press back to downward dog. And now inhale, left foot steps forward, low lunge, pressing down through both feet. Again, hands could stay down on thigh or reaching up. And then exhaling, hands to the floor, step right foot forward, forward folding. Let your head and neck relax, and then press through the feet as you inhale to rise all the way up, and then hands together at heart center. Okay, so it looks like people are moving through it okay without a chair, but I'm going to do one round with the chair, explaining verbally too, just especially if there are people watching this later. But if you're not using a chair, please continue. So if you're like a little lost and you're not sure exactly of each move, it's okay. You can kind of get the general idea. The idea is to get moving and to start opening up the different joints of the body. So if you're using a chair, you can stand behind the chair like so. And you can inhale, hands reach up. Actually, I lied. Let's stand. No, I like behind the chair. I've done it both ways. We'll start over. All right, inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, you can forward fold either using the chair as support or just forward fold further. And then you're going to inhale, step the right foot back and use the chair to support you as you come into this lunge. If you feel steady, you could reach your arms up. And then from here, you're going to step your left foot back. And this is where we would do that plank to ground. Just straighten your back, kind of reach through your arms, reach your hips back. And then to come into that modified cobra, you might walk your feet up a little bit and open up through the chest, using that chair as support. And then exhale, forward folding. You might let go of the chair. Now inhale the right foot forward for high lunge. You could, again, reach up with your hands if you feel steady. And then exhale, step the left foot forward or forward fold. Again, you might use the chair, you might step away from the chair. And then inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. So that's the chair version. I'm going to invite you to do 2 more full rounds. So one on the right side, one on the left side. So I will walk us through one more on the right side in the mat version. All right, inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, forward folding. Let your head and your neck relax and lengthen through the back of the neck. Inhale, right foot steps back. Low lunge with those different hand options. Really reach back through right big toe. Press through the left sole of the foot. Exhaling, hands to mat, step back to plank or modified plank with the knees down and lower down, shoulders away from the neck. Inhale that low cobra. Just that mini back bend, reaching back through big toes, lengthening through the low back, opening up through the chest. Exhale, hands under chest, press back, downward dog. Inhale, right foot steps forward. Low lunge, hands down, on thigh or up, opening up through the front of the left hip, dropping in. Exhale, left foot steps forward. Forward fold, letting that back of the body lengthen, head's heavy, neck is relaxed. Inhale, press through all 4 corners of both feet as you come all the way up, reaching up towards heaven. Exhale, hands to heart. And now as you do one on the left side, same thing, just stepping back with the left foot first and forward with the left foot first. Start to, with this movement, move in a way, breathe in a way that is congruent with that state of being that you're looking to cultivate in this practice. And if you're like, you know, not quite doing it right, just see how you relate to that. Again, just checking in with all these like tiny little moments of disconnection. And then moving back into awareness. We can be in connection with the things that are distracting us, right? Or we can push them away and reject them. But I invite you back into that curiosity. Breathing and moving and checking in. And once you've completed that last sun salutation, when you feel ready, I invite you to meet at the top of the mat. And we're going to do one final pose before resting, because I knew we wouldn't get to everything I hope to get to today, and that is totally fine. So let me see how you guys are doing. All right, so we're going to move into, for those of you that I can see, it looks like you've wrapped up your sun salutations. We're just going to move into a really mini back bend. And so the way we're going to do that is pressing through. First, we're going to start at the base, right? Start with the feet. Press through the feet. Press through both sides of left heel, both sides of left ball of foot, both sides of right heel, both sides of right ball of foot. You might even spread your toes wide and really activate your feet. Press down. And now, as you move up the legs, I invite you to engage the quads by pulling the kneecaps up the legs. And if you can feel for tucking your tailbone, like if you wanted to tuck your tail, your imaginary tail between your legs, so you're flattening out the low back a little bit, and then bringing hands to the hips, okay? You're starting to, with that really tucked tail and those activated quads, so again, those kneecaps pulling up the legs, those feet are really active, you feel grounded, starting to open up through the chest, chin stays tucked, my elbows start to move back towards one another, and I'm opening up across the chest. It's just enough that you feel something start to open up, and let the shoulder blades relax down. And from here, this is a very, for me, this always feels a little bit shaky and vulnerable as they open up through the chest. And from here, I'm wondering, can you, can we together feel back into that state of being and see if we can run it right here, right through that heart space. And notice, how does that feel? How do we respond to that attempt? It might not even happen, but how do we respond to that attempt to run that through our heart space? You might want to come out of it. That's totally fine. I should have probably said that already, but it looks like some of you have. And you could do a second round of that. I invite you to do one more round. Again, anchoring through the feet first, pulling the quads up by pulling the kneecaps up, tucking the tail between the legs so you get nice length through the low back, and then hands to hips, moving into that little mini back bend. Just being with whatever comes up. Chin stays tucked. That looks great. Yeah. Breathing, feeling. Both very, very key. Okay. And when you're ready, just slowly exhaling and coming on up, keeping that tailbone tucked as you do. And from here, we're going to take some form of Shavasana. It will be either seated or lying down. Sometimes lying down feels like what we need, and sometimes seated feels like what we need. So whatever feels like a good place for you to kind of wrap up and integrate what we just practiced, at least wrap up on a physical, physiological level, just take that. And so right here, just noticing, and no need to control the breath at this point, just breathing in whatever way feels natural and comfortable. Noticing how you feel right now, going inside. Being with however you are, whatever your reality is in this moment. Coming back to that 3 diamonds practice, just recognizing that we have these physical vessels that we're living in. We have this connection to spirit, to human consciousness, and bringing those 2 experiences, that earth energy and that heaven energy that lives in each of us together, we land in this heart energy. And this heart energy is really our ability to connect, our birthright to feel connected with our authentic self, that wishes to experience life from a place of connection. Connection to self, connection to others. So bringing your hands together at heart center to conclude this asana practice. I thank you for being here. We are going to move into some sharing, but I thank you for being here and for being willing to cultivate and cultivate something maybe a little new, try something a little new. That I will say namaste. And thank you. Okay. So what I would love to do, everybody, actually, yes, I am going to share my screen briefly so that if you're watching this on recording, you're going to be able to see these questions that I would like to share with you. All right, so these are, can you see these questions on your screens? Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm actually gonna, okay. I am going to log off one of these devices. Here I am on another screen, and these are just a few questions to, again, the first 2 questions, and even the third, we sort of addressed at the beginning of the practice, but also throughout the practice. And I invite you to reflect on what you noticed during your practice, specifically around your relationship to any of the questions 1 through 3,
and also how it felt for you to work with those questions throughout the practice, or anything else that came up for you. Just wanting to give a chance to share, because part of, again, this work of trauma healing is about connecting, and one of the ways that we connect is sharing our experiences with each other. So we're a small group right now. I think there's just the four of us here, Joanne, Sharon, and Melissa, and myself. So we don't need to go in breakout rooms. If you want to take a moment to reflect, maybe I'll give you like 2 minutes. We'll go to like 2:25. And then anything that you all want to share, we'll give you a chance to share with the group. And if you don't want to share, that's also perfectly fine. And I don't know if we're still recording, but if we are, we can stop that now.